Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Sam Chappa, and today I'm going to be presenting on articulation disorders. So what is an articulation disorder? An articulation disorder refers to a person who has only problems producing phonemes or whose speech errors are tied to regular muscular movement of speech production. So hopefully in our college career, we know what a phoneme is at this point, but in case if you don't, it's important to understand because they are necessary in articulation disorders. So a phoneme is any distinct unit of sound in a specified language that distinguishes one from another. There's 44 in the English language, and I put them on the top right corner in the picture. So I just put a quick, easy example. So of the word fun, those would be the phonemes, just breaking down into 3. So what are some potential causes and treatment for articulation disorders? So causes could be physical changes or problems with the shape of the mouth. So it could be a cleft palate, bones or teeth, brain or nerve damage such as cerebral palsy. And then treatment, I said that it depends on what sounds are most difficult for the child. Some could struggle with different sounds or words more or less than others. So it's definitely going to depend on trial and error, seeing where they struggle the most and then testing them from there. So I said the speech therapist could start with a specific goal or a letter. So if they were to say the word road, could you repeat the word road back to me? And if they say woad, so they're replacing that W with the R, then there could be some type of issue there. But I also think that it's important to understand that at a certain age, some kids shouldn't be producing words perfectly. A 3-month-old isn't going to be saying words perfectly, but when it comes to age 8, that's a point in adolescence when they should be producing words. So what are the different types of errors? There's going to be 4 that we're discussing today. So there's substitution, omission, distortion, and addition. And I'm going to be breaking those down in these next couple slides. So the first one that we're talking about is substitution. So this occurs when the client replaces one sound with another. So the first example I used was kind of similar to the one I just said. So wed instead of red. So they're just making that W sound instead of the R. And then tat instead of cat. So they're not doing the k, they're just tat. It's just kind of sounds like at. So they're substituting the T for the C. Next type of error is going to be omission. So this is a disorder when there are deletions or certain sounds taken out. So it could be too difficult for them to pronounce depending on where they are at in adolescence. But some example I used were at instead of hat. So they're not getting the they could know what the meaning of the word is, so they could be pointing to a hat, maybe hearing it from their mom or dad saying like, this is my hat, so they're pointing at, but they just can't say the H. Another example would be ka instead of cup. And then I just put a little sentence on the bottom. So I'm fine on a plane tomorrow instead of I'm flying on a plane tomorrow. So just missing that L sound, which is why they call it deletion. So the third type of error is distortion. This occurs when a characteristic of speech involving the production of an allophone of an intended phoneme. So the sounds are altered or changed. Some examples could be thith. So they kind of have a lisp to that, to thith, instead of this, or correct, can't even say it in a bad way, instead of correct. So they're just altering it in a way where it's unnecessary. So they're distorting the word. And then the last type of error we're going to be talking about is addition. So pretty self-explanatory. This is why I didn't put a lot of examples for this one, but I'll explain that in a second. So the insertion of an extra phoneme in the production of a word. So extra sounds or syllables that are added that are unnecessary. So the example I put was animammal instead of animal. So the mammal is unnecessary. They're just adding words that don't need to be there. It's kind of the opposite of deletion. Okay, so I put down 3 questions and I also have answers to them. There's no right or wrong answer. There are a lot of opinionated ones. So I'm just gonna say one question and then say my answer after, for the sake of me pre-recording this. So my first one is, what do you believe is the best way to prevent articulation disorders in children? Okay, so some answers I put to this were to notice the early signs. You could read with them. If your child is struggling, maybe try practicing certain sounds or words with them one-on-one. If it's multiple, seek clinical treatment. If they're not correctly pronouncing a majority of sounds by the age of 8, further testing should be done. So those are just some examples. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should do, but if I was putting myself in the shoes of a parent that had a child with articulation disorders, I would try and start as early as possible, even if you notice that there's some slurring or lisp, anything like that, that might need medical treatment. I would start the earliest you possibly can in adolescence to try and avoid problems. So my second question is, what do you believe is the most common articulation disorder or disorders? So my answers that I put were S, I, and R sounds are some of the most difficult to pronounce. I can say this from personal experience. I have a niece who is around the age of 5, and whenever she calls me Aunt Sam, it's Aunt Ham, like Aunt Ham. Sometimes there's not even H there, so she can't really say her S's. I know that's hard. She also struggles with her R's as well. She'll say, I'm way tired. So it's kind of interesting that I get to see that one-on-one, and that's what I'm presenting on. So what are some cons or disadvantages that articulation disorders bring upon children? So I said like environmental factors, sociological factors, such as like their friends being mean about it or anything like that. So embarrassment, poor self-esteem if it's not fixed, setbacks with education, being held back a couple grades if they're not progressing, and then if it's continued throughout adulthood, it could cause issues with work life. We're always communicating, even if it's verbal or nonverbal, but if you do have a job where it is necessary for you to be on the phone 24/7 or talking to people, or interviewing, public speaking, anything like that, it's going to become an issue. So, like I said before, and I stressed a lot, I do think it's important to always read to them or see treatment if it's necessary. So that was my presentation on articulation disorders. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you.